All right, we are going to continue learning about negative exponents today. So as I do these problems, I would love for you to take out your math notes and you can just title it Lesson 5, Part 2. And write down these problems as we go. So we know from yesterday that when you have a negative exponent like the one right here, what do you need to do? Well, you need to look at your formula. Your formula says that x to the negative b equals 1 over xb, right? So if you have a number like this would be 76,543 to the negative fourth. So x would be 76,543 and b would be negative 4, right? Equals 1 over x to the positive b. So now for this one, the thing that you would do would be to put it over 1, 76,543 to the positive 4. Okay, I don't think anybody wants to be multiplying 76,543 by itself 4 times, so we'll just leave it at that. Let's do this one now. Don't let the variables scare you. You're going to do it the same way. So f would be instead of x and negative 4 would be instead of negative b. What do you have to do? 1 over f to the positive 4th, right? Okay, this next one, 671 times 28,796 to the negative 1. So let's just keep 671 the same. What do we have to do to change this number? 1 over 28,796 to the first power. So let's multiply this across. 671 over 1 because it's a whole number. Let me move the camera. Times 1 over 28,796, and anything to the first power is just the same number. Now multiply across, you would get 671 over 28,796. Just leave it at that. All right, let's do number 4 together. A times b to the negative 1. So you have to remember these two numbers, when they're variables, they are separate numbers. So you can even see it like this. A times b to the negative 1. Okay, now what do you have to do to b in order to follow the formula? Now you'll multiply across. So what's a times 1? A. And what's 1 times b? B. Anything to the first power is just that number. 3 to the first power is 3. 4 to the first power is 4. B to the first power is b. So you'll just leave it at that. Let's do number 5. 1 to the g to the first. 1 to the g to the first. 1 over g to the first. So how can you write it? So we need to rewind and complete this problem. All right. So if we look up here, which number out of a and b did we put over 1? 1 over a or 1 over b to the first power? We did 1 over b to the first power in this one, right? So this said 1 over g to the first power. So if we wrote it a different way, it would be what? If we rewinded, it would be g to the negative 1, right? 1 over g to the first power equals g to the negative 1. But what about this one? So it's 1 over g to the negative 1. Well, it's the opposite of this, okay? So it's the opposite of this, which means this number is positive. So if you look at a number like this, it should be g to the first power, which is g. So why is that? Well, if you have g to the negative 1, and that equals 1 over g to the first power, then if you have g to the positive 1, then you're going to have to make this is positive, so you're gonna have to do the opposite. It needs to be -1. All right, this one's kind of a doozy. It says 3 squared times 3 squared times 3 to the first times 3 to the 0th power times 3 to the -1 times 3 to the -2. What do you do? Well, do all of these have the same base number? Yes. So what you can do is what? Add or subtract the exponents. Multiply equals add, right? Let's add the exponents. You have 3 squared plus another squared plus a 1 plus a 0 plus a -1 plus a -2. Okay, so let's add. 3 to the 2 plus 2 is 4 plus 1 is 5 plus 0 is 5 plus -1. So you need to go down 1. 5 minus 1 is 4 plus -2 down 2. So 4 minus 2 is 2. So you should get 3 squared, which is 9. So I actually want you to do this second one on your own. You can pause the video. 5 squared times 5 to the 10th times 5 to the 8th times 5 to the -10th times 5 to the -8th. I want you to complete that, pause the video, and do that one on your own. All right, let's do these last couple before you go on to do your homework of similar problems. What do you do when there's a negative number inside, a negative exponent inside, and a exponent on the outside? What do you do to these two numbers? Whether this number inside is positive or negative, what do you do to these two numbers? You multiply them. So it would just be 17.6. -1 times +8, so negative times positive equals negative. 1 times 8 is 8. How do you rewrite this? Negative exponent, 1 over, fill the rest out, all right? Let's do this one. This one's kind of a little bit trickier. Here's what we need to do. All right, so when you write this out in a different way, you can just put 2.8 to the -5 because that's the numerator, right? And then times 1 over 2.8 to the 7th power, because this is the denominator. You have to put it over 1. So if you multiplied across, you know this is correct because when you multiply across, you get this. So it's 2.8 to the -5 times 1 is 2.8 to the -5. 1 times 2.8 to the 7th is 2.8 to the 7th, okay? But 2.8 to the -5, how do you rewrite that? 1 over 2.8 to the 5th power, right? Times, this one doesn't change, 1 over 2.8 to the 7th power. So what do you do now? This is multiplying, so what do you do to these exponents? You add. 7 plus 5 is 12. So it'd be 1 over 2.8 to the 12th power. 1 over 2.8 to the 12th power.